Welcome, critters. I'm Claire Jones, your devoted host of the Sacred Reading CR podcast, where we discuss and examine Critical Role episodes, plot lines, characters, and players through the lens of sacred reading practices. This particular episode is about Campaign 1, Episode 35, Part 1, and joining me today is Petall.
Hello.
And I just realized I did not prep an icebreaker question, so I'm just going to pull one randomly from this list that I have, and we're just going to go from there. What's your best scar story?
My best scar story. Oh my God. Okay, so I have a scar on my finger right here. I don't think I can make it show up on the camera, 'cause it's quite faded. But I got that one because I was at one point I was camping with my family, and a group of friends, and the beach that we were camping at has like this huge expanse of sand that
Mm,
stretches on when the tide is way out, and then when the tide comes in, it comes like way in.
mm,
But when the sand is out, it's really great sand for building things.
right.
There's actually like sand sculpture building competitions and festivals there. I've never actually been to one of those festivals, but anyways, we decided that we would build this big structure and see how long it would withstand
Mm,
against the tide when the tide came in. And so a bunch of people were working on like making it and making it sturdy and making it like big. And then I thought, because at the time I was really into warrior cats and I was obsessed with cats. I'm going to build a bunch of cat sculptures around.
okay.
And so I was building a bunch of sand cat sculptures, and then I was building moats around them to try to make them last longer. And then at one point I was scooping sand out with my hand, and my finger sliced open on a clamshell. And
Um,
I still have the scar to this day.
yeah. Yeah, clamshells are nasty. Like,
They are.
especially what are they called? Mussel shells. They like
Hmm.
stick up, and they gather. Like you can't walk on those in any shoes, honestly.
No. No,
Hmm.
but it was just like a clam that was buried in the sand, and
Yeah.
the shell was broken, so it was extra sharp, and
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, that's gnarly. That's gnarly. Well, I've been sitting over here thinking about my best scar stories, and I do have some pretty good scars, honestly. But I think I'm going to tell one about being a naughty teenager because I doubt that my dad will ever watch this podcast, let alone this particular episode. So I'm going to call myself out here. I used to throw parties at my dad's house in high school because he was never home. My parents were divorced and he was often at his girlfriend's house. And so I threw a lot of parties. And so one time I was actually throwing a party at his girlfriend's house because they were on vacation in San Diego at the time. And so I was kind of, it's out in the country and I was kind of going for the field party vibe kind of thing. And so to prepare for this party, I left the bathroom window cracked open last time I was in the house so that I could climb in the bathroom window and open up the house once we got there for the party. And so all goes according to plan. I actually ended up getting into a car crash earlier that day.
Oh no.
And so that put a little bit of a wrinkle. I should have known at that point in the day that like my plans weren't meant to go according to plan. Like that was the first sign that things were going sideways. But we corrected, all of my friends. We got out to the house. I climb in the bathroom window and I'm walking through the house and the house alarm goes off.
Oh no.
I knew they had a house like alarm system, but I didn't know they actually set it. I thought it was just like an antiquated alarm system that they never used. And so the alarm started going while I was walking through the house. And so I freaked out, ran back to the bathroom, and literally just like launched myself out the bathroom window. And my like the inside of my thumb here caught on a nail in the
Oh
bathroom
no.
window. And so like it just literally like ripped my hand open as I was launching myself out the window. And I like shut the window and I'm running towards the car and I'm like, get in the car, get in the car, get in the car. We gotta go. We gotta go. And everyone's like really confused and like, but we got in the car, we peel out of there, you know, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I still to this day have a very gnarly scar on my thumb from launching myself out a bathroom window.
Wow.
Yeah, that's probably the funniest scar story that I have.
It's a great story.
Yeah, that was quite the night. Hmm. Oh, teenage high school parties. Well, join us as we embark on this exciting adventure in story analysis and self-reflection in order to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. As always, we love hearing your own insights and stories as well, so please comment, like, subscribe below. And ready? All right, let's dive on in. So, as we open this episode, Vox Machina they've just defeated the Briarwoods at the Ziggurat underneath Whitestone, and they rush away from the anti-magic field surrounding it. But unfortunately, Pike's radiant form shimmers and blinks out as they flee. They all panic for a second, but continue to press forward, trying to get out of the area and hoping to heal Vex, who is barely conscious and bleeding out. They finally reach safety and do some healing as Scanlan asks about giving him a gun again, but they change the subject, and Keyleth tells the group that she was unable to use any magic near the ziggurat, including her wild shape ability. As they talk about what to do next, Pike's form does flash back into existence, and she further heals the group. Grog stabilizes Lady Briarwood, gags her, and pulls her away from the group as Delilah starts to wake up. Grog slaps her in panic, and she falls unconscious again. Percy wakes Cassandra and they ask her about the building below their city. She apologizes to the group and says she has no idea what its true purpose is. All she knows is that they've been building it under the guidance of an entity called the Whispered One, but the Briarwoods were very secretive about it. Scanlan, with all of his bard knowledge, manages to remember a mention of a being called Vecna, a lich of once great power that sought godhood. As they talk, Cassandra seems deeply regretful and she is unable to make eye contact with Percy. Percy starts to feel a warm pulse in his hand, and a voice from deep within him urges him to kill off Lady Briarwood. He begins talking out loud, asking the entity to remove Cassandra's name from his gun, and the group begins to wonder if he's losing it, very validly. The thing urges Percy to kill Delilah, to finish what he started, and then to kill Cassandra as well. He moves the pepper box back and forth between the two women, as well as putting it to his own head. The thing tells him that they had a deal, but Percy tells it that it was nothing more than a dream to him. He drops the gun after trying to fire it, knowing full well that it's broken. His hand, without his control, goes for bad news, but he pulls it away as the rest of the group begins to ready themselves now that he's been talking to himself for a while now. Delilah starts to wake up again as Percy implores her to fix this, and Scanlan removes her gag with his mage hand. Vex says Percy's full name as his eyes turn black and demands that he fight this thing inside of him. Percy casts minor illusion and changes his face into Silas Briarwood's, and he screams, telling Delilah that he has imagined every way to hurt her and demands that she tell them how to stop the ziggurat's block or orb. Man, say that 10 times fast. Ziggurat's black orb. She says she doesn't know because the ritual was done too soon and that she still owes the Whispered One for giving her Silas back. Percy tells Grog to knock her out again as Scanlan accidentally breaks Percy's gun further. The group's discussion bounces back and forth between Vecna killing Briarwood and the thing within Percy. The group demands to know why he was talking to himself, and he keeps insisting that it was a dream and that he doesn't know. His hands begin to reach back again for the gun strapped to his back, but he resists as the smoke floats off of him and takes an almost humanoid form behind him. As it does, a strange beak-like face emerges, and the form swells and grows large, taking up the entire area of the tunnel they are in. The voice tells Percy to kill Delilah, and for the first time, the others hear it speak as Vex shoots arrows dipped in holy oil at it. Vex's arrows do find their mark, striking true both times and causing the smoke creature to reel back in pain. Scanlan's lightning bolt, though, harmlessly passes through it. Percy unties Cassandra and Vax dagger daggers. The creature warns him not to double cross it, naming itself as Orthax, and moves between them all as Percy gets an opportunity attack with his rapier. Orthax screeches, and Vax and Grog both are influenced by a blind rage and attack the nearest person to them. Grog attacks Scanlan, who uses his cutting words to dodge it. Vax attacks Pike, but she sees it coming and she gets her shield up in time to block it. Seeing his trick fail, the entity disappears into the wall, trying to reassess what it can do. Everyone readies their weapons to attack, watching the wall and waiting for it to return as Cassandra takes the rapier Percy offers and heads back towards the castle proper. Pike casts protection from evil on Percy for fiends, and everyone waits as Vax tries to position himself behind Trinket, but the thing comes out of the wall behind him. Everyone attacks with their readied actions. Percy lands a shot with bad news. Vax has one dagger hit. Scanlan mocks it viciously. Vex pierces it with her last holy arrow, and Grog slams his hammer into it twice. Its form begins to lose the smoke obscuring it as Pike hits it with a guiding bolt, and it's a natural 20, so it reveals a muscular torso and long arms with clawed fingers. Orthax retaliates with 3 strikes against Pike, 2 of them landing as its claws dig into her astral form, trying to rip her will away, but she's too strong for it. Grog slams the hammer into it twice. Keyleth lights it up with a daylight spell. There's a whisper and a sound of clinking change as Pike casts another guiding bolt, but it misses. Vex fires 2 arrows into it, and Percy yells that Delilah is getting away, having noticed that she had cast Misty Step and has turned herself invisible. So Vax tosses a dagger at her invisible form successfully, and she falls to the ground instantly, and Orthax screeches again. This time, Grog and Trinket both fall to the rage and turn on Pike. Grog misses, but Trinket's teeth sink deep into her glowing form. Orthax tries to get to Percy, but Grog and Trinket reach the creature first, and Grog hits it with his hammer before Trinket rips the entity's head off. The entire entity's head off, if you want. Its form turns to smoke, falling to the ground. It snaps back into Percy's shadow, a cold feeling washing over him. Vax pulls Delilah up into its sitting position, telling Percy to finally end it, but Percy turns and tells Cassandra that she needs to finish it instead. His sister thrusts the rapier into the woman's chest, finally killing her. They loot her corpse as Cassandra begins to drag her body away to ensure that she stays dead. They then make their way to the room with the acid pits and toss Delilah's corpse in. As they look around the room, Percy manages to remove Cassandra's name from the pepper box with some acid, but the feeling as though it wouldn't be enough, Scanlan uses magic to take the gun, and with a helpful hold person from Keyleth, the gnome tosses the gun into the acid vat, much to Percy's chagrin. It sinks slowly as Percy curses him about the money he just threw away. Vex kisses Percy's cheek as he mutters that Scanlan is paying for a new one. As the gun burns, a little puff of dark smoke rises, and the cold core in Percy's gut is extinguished. And that's where they break for the episode. So, what do we think of this first half?
It's a big episode, especially for Percy.
There's a lot that goes down. Like there was so much
Mm-hmm.
conversation. I was like, I don't know how to summarize all of it, honestly. Like there's so much
Yeah.
forth going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one thing that really struck me is that like Trinket's got some really big kills in this Whitestone arc going on. Like
Yeah.
he got what was that Lord Vampire dude? What was his name?
Oh, I'm blanking.
Yeah, ripping his head off and then killing Orthax. Like I'm proud of Trinket.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. That is just so cool too to see how like Percy's arc kind of like comes to a head with this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we've been talking a lot about Cassandra between me and Atlas in the last couple episodes because she's a fascinating character, but
Hmm.
Percy really is the main. He's having a main character moment in the Whitestone arc. I mean, it's
Yeah.
his arc, it's his story, and I kind of like seeing him unravel in this episode. Like
Yeah.
he's been white knuckling it for this entire Whitestone
Oh,
arc.
yeah.
And he's finally gone a little crazy in this first half.
Hmm.
And I kind of love to see it.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see Orthax too, because before it was just kind of like this vague, oh, like Percy made a deal with a demon, somewhat controlling him, and then to see like the extent to which his actions have been influenced by Orthax, and to see Orthax, I bet, is just it's just such a cool moment. And I know I always talk about how things go in the animated series, but I can't help but think about how epic and cool this scene was in the animated series.
Hmm. Well, it's funny because, like, we always talk about wrestling with our inner demons. I think that's
Yeah.
very common for us to deal with, or at least people who are willing to deal with it. And it must be so gratifying for these fictional characters to have them like externally manifest too,
Yeah, I wish my inner demons could like externally
right?
manifest. I mean, I'm not very good at physical fighting. I'm probably much better at mental fighting, but like it would be really cool just to have that validation of like, oh, this is like a real thing that I'm struggling with and not just something I made up.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's so much, I think, shame that can build when you're struggling with it internally because you almost think it's your fault that you're struggling with this thing inside,
Yeah.
right? But to have it externally manifest, you're like, no, it's actually real. It's not me. It creates that like
Exactly.
separation that is validating.
And it was also really cool, I bet, like if we're carrying this metaphor further about battling our inner demons, to have all of Percy's friends rally around and to help fight so that he's not
Yeah.
fighting alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are always the moments and stories that make me just like bawl, like ugly cry.
Yeah.
Like when everyone comes together to like support the person and it's they all put themselves on the line to like fight this demon with them and I always love to see it. But yeah, it must have been so validating for Percy, even though he's a completely fictional character, to have that. Because I think, he was going through the process of even doubting it himself, like saying it was a dream
Hmm.
all the way up until it externally manifested.
Yeah.
Like he was convinced that it wasn't really real up until that
Hmm.
point.
Yeah, it was just a dream. He had it all under control. All of these sorts of like lies that we often tell ourselves when we're struggling with something internally.
And I honestly love that Taliesin didn't even realize that Percy was talking to himself until like
Yeah.
Matt pointed it out for a second time. Like
Uh-huh.
that was all completely 100% genuine Taliesin just thinking that he was having a conversation that other people could hear. And like I think that's where the lines between Percy and Taliesin blurred completely.
Yeah. Oh, that was really cool.
Yeah, like he didn't even realize. He was like, "Oh, I sound crazy." And everyone's like, "Yeah, you do." That was a great moment. Absolutely. I think Scanlan and his actions are also super notable in this episode is like,
Hmm.
he's the one that actually took the risk of going against Percy's wishes and doing
Hmm.
the right thing.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
those
Go ahead.
like Scanlan is really good at having those like big moments when it really matters. As with any Sam character, really. Like Scanlan is mostly all like jokes and like fun, goofy times, but like when it counts,
Hmm.
can really get those like big important beats.
Yeah. And I don't think any of the other characters would have been willing to go that
No,
far against Percy's wishes.
probably not.
So I'm a Scanlan stan, you know? Like I feel like he gets forgotten a lot out of the Vox Machina fandom.
Well, it's funny because that's what his whole arc is about in the
I
campaign.
know.
We can't go too deep into it now because there will be lots of opportunity to talk about it in the future, but it is really funny that it mirrors in the fandom.
It does. I mean, because everyone I think is willing to like disregard the goofy class clown, right?
Hmm.
It's like, he's typecasted and he's very firmly put into that archetype typecast. Like, and it's very easy to disregard the multidimensionality of people who you just set into an archetype and call it a day.
Yeah,
But
which is really funny because that's what his
I
whole arc
know.
is
I
about.
know. Yeah. 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 I love me some Scanlan, honestly. Like, yeah, he's a dick. Yeah, he's a womanizer. And like in the beginning, he is a little bit misogynistic, but he's
Yeah, it took some time for him to grow on me for that reason, and it's not until he actually started like changing that and going through some character growth, which we will again talk about in upcoming episodes, that he did actually grow on me.
yeah, well, I think they're finally getting to the point in this campaign too of being in the public eye as players
Hmm.
and as characters. Like as characters, they've saved him on, they've been heralded as heroes, they've been gifted the keep, and now they have this enormous chance to save an entire town that's really tied to one of their members' backstories. And so I think the Whitestone arc is a really good example of how much they've had to step into being public eye leaders,
Hmm.
which is not something that any of them expected or kind of wanted to do. I mean, Keyleth definitely expected to do that at some point, but she
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily want to do it.
And I would say that Vex, to some degree, has a desire for that,
Mm-hmm.
just given her story, but I don't think she pictured it in quite this way. Hers was more
Yeah.
like wanting to get her father's approval and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
And I just think it's fantastic that it completely mirrors what the players themselves are going through with stepping
Hmm.
into their public eye with Critical Role in general. Like they're now having to worry about what they're saying and how they're saying it and how they're acting and how they're interacting with their fans and building the business behemoth that we now know as Critical Role. And
Yeah.
I bring that up because I think that's part of Sam's and Scanlan's growth curve too.
Hmm.
Because in the very beginning, Sam does say some misogynistic things and, less than PC things that I think he would have been able to get away with before they were in the public eye.
Hmm.
But now that they are in the public eye, they're trying to make better decisions, better
Exactly.
actions, so on and so forth. And so we'll see how it goes for the characters once they come out of the basement, into the basement for, a couple episodes now. Because, they're going to have to make decisions as to what the future of Whitestone looks like at this point.
Hmm. Yeah, because
So,
it's a big step to like overthrow the tyrants, but it's
mhm.
also a huge step to figure out what comes next
Yeah,
and
they can't be
how to
like, all
rebuild.
right, bye, peace, have fun. Like you're leaving a power vacuum.
Hmm.
So, what are you going to do with that power vacuum now that you've made it? And I think that's another step in their evolution as public eye leaders. Like,
Hmm.
they can't just peace out.
Yeah, that's very true.
Any thoughts on any of the half elves in this episode? Um, we had some Percy and Vex stuff going on in
Yeah,
this
that was
episode.
pretty big.
Yeah, we love to see it. We see a little bit of Vex and Keel or Vax and Keyleth action, a little tiny,
Hmm.
tiny, it's a teeny bitty bit, because we now have the love confession on vaccine,
Yeah.
but we don't really have Keyleth's reaction to any of it beyond trying to communicate with him through the message hearing, I think, from
Yeah.
like her attempt to kind of respond very indirectly.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
we love to see Pike, you know.
Love to see Pike. It was really cool. Like it really worked out well because I know that her flickering in and out was based entirely on
Skype. Yeah.
the Skype as Ashley Johnson was trying to like Skype in, but it really worked out well that she flickered out when they were in the anti-magic field and
Yeah.
then flickered back in once they had left it.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think it goes to show you how good of a DM Matt is and how good they are all at improv. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
ultimately what carries this show so well is that not only are they improving to things that are happening in game, but they're improving to things that are happening in real life too.
Yeah. Yeah, but still, that timing is not something you can manufacture because that's a very clearly defined area where magic does not work. The
Yeah.
fact that it worked out in such a way.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, any personal experiences that are coming to mind here?
Well, I'm just thinking about going back to what we were talking about with uh Percy and Orthax. I just think often about how much I tend to try to go through my internal struggles on my own. I like worry that I'm gonna like burden people, that I'm gonna be too much, that um like I really struggle with letting people in to my internal struggles.
Hmm.
And so I think that is just like a good reminder that, all of Percy's friends came to help him, and that
Mm.
when I'm struggling, I should trust my friends to help me too.
Yeah, that's a big lesson, isn't it? I mean, the first step is asking and like communicating,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Which I think is often the hardest step of
Oh,
being
yeah.
like, hello, I need help.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big lesson. I think we can all take something from that. I'm honestly thinking a lot about the public eye thing. It's funny because we're on this podcast where I've been speaking for, oh my God, 13 years at this point, and I've been podcasting for 5 years, 6 years at this point, and I've kind of built myself up as having this whole public image at this point with all of my businesses and stuff like that. But it's all kind of been separated from me because
Mhm.
I've been working from home for the majority of that time. And so it's just been me posting what I want to the internet at a predefined, controlled pace.
Mhm.
It's what I choose to show. Um, but I've been recently confronted with working in person with people for the first time in a very long time. I've taken a income opportunity where I'm surrounded by people pretty much all day, every day. And they're all finding out that I'm an author, that I'm a podcaster, and they're all like reading my books now. They're listening to my podcasts. And it's people who I see like all day, every day. And so I'm now being forced to have this in real life public eye experience,
Mhm.
which is very different from the working at home public eye
I'm
experience.
sure, yeah.
And it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. Like I kind of have it's like as if the critical role players were surrounded by critters all day. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, can you imagine what kind of experience that would be of just having like
Yeah.
an IRL fan club?
Yeah, that would be wild.
It's really weird. I have people coming up to me all the time asking me about like the things that I do, and it's very bizarre. I'm not entirely sure how to react to it, honestly. It's like being at a con all day every day. And they're starting to call me the star at work, and I'm like, please no. I'm not, please don't put me on that. They're like, I listened to your podcast, and I'm like, which one? There's a lot of different reactions that I can have to that statement based on which
Hmm.
podcast you listened to.
Yeah.
You know, and they're reading my books, which are also like, they're fantasy romance. And so there's some like explicit scenes in there. And like, I don't necessarily want to have those conversations. Work.
Yeah, that's
So I'm like, can
fair.
I just pretend that you're just not gonna tell me anything about what you read? It's very bizarre. And so I kind of have these two worlds colliding at the moment. And so I kind of think I'm going through a similar growth arc that, the critical role players are and characters are. It's like,
Hmm.
holy shit, now I'm very visible in this town. And now I have to think about how I respond to the people around me, even if it's just like an offhand comment or an offhand
Hmm.
suggestion, or like everything I do is being watched right now.
Hmm.
Everything I do is being watched. And so I have to be very conscious of just, yeah, the offhand comments I make and who I say good morning to and who I don't say good morning to. And like it's all documented. It's all seen. It's all everyone
Hmm.
notices who I say good morning to and who I don't say good morning to.
Hmm.
It's weird.
I would imagine so.
So that's my personal experience that I'm grappling with right now. Like, so, I mean, the thing that I'm going to do to transition to the last question about this is I'm just nice and friendly to everyone. That's my solution. I
That's a
just
good
say
way to
good
do it.
morning. I say good morning to literally everyone because I
It's a good
don't
way to
want,
do it.
I know, I'm just like, I'm just going to be nice. I'm going to be friendly, and I'm going to be relatively optimistic. Like, I'm just not going to gripe or complain or do anything that can be perceived as negative, you know what I mean? Which, is better for my psyche anyway. Like, I'd rather spend all day being nice and friendly and optimistic than being mean and pessimistic anyway. So
Hmm.
it's just good practice in general.
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, I'll just be nice all the time. Darn. Yeah, that's how I'm handling my situation. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, it's at currently, I'm not really going through anything major. I don't feel like I'm dealing with it, a lot of internal demons at the moment. But I think just like keeping in mind for the future to trust my friends
Yeah,
and find friends who will be like willing to support me and stuff like that.
yeah. Yeah, I honestly had to go out on a limb a couple days ago and be like, hey, because I'm working so much, I am lonely. And I had to, like, be honest and communicate about that. And I think that
Hmm.
we often forget that we can do that.
Hmm.
And I think it's important to make that more of a practice to be like, not isolate ourselves and feel like we have to do it
Hmm.
on our own,
Absolutely.
because that just exacerbates the problem.
Yeah. And I've always had a hard time asking for help
Oh,
when I
same.
need it. Like even like in school, I would like never ask the teacher questions and stuff like that. And I just figure it out on my own.
Yeah, I would honestly rather figure it out on my own. Like, I'll go research it. figure it out on my own and I'll be good. But we can't always operate that way.
No.
Well, anything else before we start wrapping up?
I can't think of anything. We've covered a lot of good ground here.
I know, we went really deep today. Wow, I did not expect that to come out of my mouth. Yeah, well, you know, coworkers, if you see this podcast, I don't know. I guess maybe talk about it, maybe don't. You do you, boo. This is powerful stuff that we're talking about here. And audience, we definitely encourage you to share your own thoughts and feelings and insights and stories with us as well. We'd love to know how Critical Role has impacted you in your own lives. Side note, one of my coworkers is a huge D&D fan. He actually played D&D back in the 80s, but he complains that he has no friends to play with nowadays. I'm just like, dude, offer to be a DM and you'll find a group somewhere,
Oh
somehow.
yeah.
Like, get it done. So we've been having very interesting conversations about dragon turtles.
Nice.
Special thanks to Petall for joining me on this episode. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great to be here and talk about these topics as always. I
Mm.
apologize if my voice has gone weird. I'm getting over a cold.
It's that time of year. Like, I know at least 5 people with colds right now. So I literally just took one of those like zinc lozenges because I do not want to be one of those 5 people.
Very fair.
Next time, we'll be discussing Campaign 1, Episode 35, Part 2. And joining me again will be Petall, so I'm super excited for that. As always, I'm looking for more co-hosts and guests, so if you're interested in coming on, just let me know. I'll send you a link. In the meantime, please comment, like, subscribe below. Follow us on Tumblr at SacredCR for all the juicy updates. And I did update it last weekend. Look at me being on top of things.
Yay.
And until next time, may all beings be peaceful, may all beings be free, and be the chaotic good you wish to see in the world. Take care, guys.